Today we're going to be tackling one of the most pressing issues facing our nation, and that is the crisis in the electricity sector. Now, despite efforts to reform and privatize the sector, Nigerians still continue to grapple with epileptic power supply, estimated billing, lack of access to electricity for lots of Nigerians. Now, we had the phone lines open and several people aired their opinion. Some said they were okay with estimated billings, and the others said, metering has been a blessing to them, and others complained about how unfair estimated billing is to them. And I said we're going to double back on that conversation in this segment, which is what we're doing. Now, joining me today in the studio to shed some light on this complex issue is Chijioke, Engineer Chijioke Okwuolenye, the Acting Managing Director, CEO of the Abuja Electricity Distribution Company. Now, as a key player in the power sector, Engineer Chijioke brings a wealth of experience and expertise to the table. He'll be sharing his insight on the challenges facing the sector and what needs to be done to ensure a stable and reliable supply of electricity to Nigerian homes and businesses. So welcome to the show, Mr. Chijioke.
Thank you very much.
It's good to have you.
Thank you.
All right, now, kicking off, an overview. What's your take on the electricity sector in Nigeria?
So I would say it's a journey. It's not a destination yet. It's a journey. There is no transformational process that is seamless, that is easy. The reasons why you bring in experts to carry out transformation is for them to be able to navigate troubled waters. And I think that's what we are doing in the power sector. Yes, you could say it's taking time, but progress is being made, and I'm very hopeful that sooner than later we will get the power sector that we all deserve and we yearn for.
All right, we're looking forward to that, and Nigerians are asking lots of questions when it comes to getting the power sector that we all deserve. But we know that the sector is facing, significant challenges, and it's something that Nigerians want to know more. Nigerians are advocating for transparency. We want to know what is happening, and sometimes I always say it's a double-edged sword, because do you really want to know what's happening, or you want us to tell you what it is you want to hear? But this includes regular unreliable supply, grid collapses, and all of that. But in your thoughts and your experience, what would you say is the primary cause of this instability in the electricity sector in Nigeria?
I think a lot has been said about this, and it all boils down to funding.
Okay.
There's a need to bring in a lot of investment into the power sector. I tell people that power business is capital intensive and requires patient capital.
All right.
So it's not a business you are looking to go into and then get returns the next day. It's a business you go into with a long-term view, and the ability to muzzle up this level of investment, patient investment, has been a challenge, and all the stakeholders in the industry currently, that's what we are all trying to grapple with. So there's a lot of initiatives to prove that this business can be productive, it can be sustainable, and only with that proof would you find investors willing to then inject capital into the business, because you need that capital to renew aging infrastructure, you need that capital to expand the network, you need that capital to bring in new generation installations, you need that capital to even open up the gas space, because it's an entire value chain. It doesn't just start with you see in your houses where we connect you with wires. No, that's not where it starts. It's a grid, and when we talk about a grid, it's there's an entire value chain behind it. So you have the generator man who takes gas from gas supplier, you have the transmission man who's going to buy transformers from OEM. So it's an entire grid, and all this has to be driven through proper funding. Yes.
All right, just in case I didn't mention, I'm pretty sure I did, but just in case I didn't mention, Engineer Chijioke Okwuolenye is the acting managing director and CEO of the Abuja Electricity Distribution Company. So let's talk about band and metering. People want to know, why and how are customers placed on different bands, and how is this adjusted? How would you say this person belongs to band A, this person belongs to band B? This is one of the questions we had in the phone-in segment. People want to know why they were placed on certain bands and why this is happening.
Okay, so it's called a service reflective tariff, meaning that the tariff you pay is reflective of the volume of service or quality of service you get. And based on that, we have actually classified customers in two stratas. There are customers you have the ability to give 20 hours and above of availability, hours of availability in a day. And for such customers, they are put on band A. They pay more. Now, the idea is when you are a customer and you get, say, 12 hours a day, the likelihood is that you augment your energy supply using other sources, most likely a generator, fuel power generator. And so there's what is called your levelized cost of energy. The more I give you grid power, the less you use your generator, and then your generator obviously is more expensive, so you start paying a little more so that your levelized cost of energy gets towards what we call a cost reflective tariff, which is far cheaper than you using your generator. So sometimes when people say, no, I don't want band A, I tell them, what's the alternative? Maybe you get 10 hours, and at the end of the day, you are augmenting using a generator. So as we move you to a more reliable, stable supply, we expect you to pay more, because we have actually taken a burden away from you, which is the burden of self-generation. So banding is reflective of the level of service we give to you, and band A customers get 20 hours and above, and band B a little less, between 16 to 20 hours. Just like that, we band them into stratas.
Do they really get 20 hours?
I would say the probability of from our current review, band A customers get 20 hours. Now, there might be customers who, for one reason or the other, so there's power on the grid or there's power on that feeder, but the customer does not get power, maybe because of a local fault or a fault in his house or the local transformer feeding him. Now, that becomes isolated cases, and for such cases, when we're able to establish them, we either give the customer a kind of rebate on the tariff, which we do, or in extreme cases, we even downgrade the customer to a lower band to reflect the number of hours he has actually gotten. But most often than not, most band A customers do get band A service.
So can a customer decide to switch? I don't want band A anymore, I want to switch to band B, or less, one that is way lesser. How is it done, and is it possible?
No. So the service is not bespoke. You are tied to a feeder. And as long as that feeder gets up to the hours of availability that reflects the tariff band you should be, then you're automatically on that tariff band. And I must let you know that it's so transparent that even the regulator sees remotely the hours of availability every feeder takes in a given month. So we have meters on those feeders, and those meters transmit remotely to tell you I'm on or I'm off. And based on that, the regulator can actually establish the number of hours you have served a feeder in a particular month. So it's quite transparent. And yes, that's the way it's done currently.
All right, at this point now, I would say that you are justifying the tariff hikes, because with each band comes an increased tariff. But how do you put this vis-a-vis with people complaining of lack of electricity? There's a tariff hike. There's a band A saying that there's going to be a certain number of electricity provided to them. Has there been an increased generation to equate the certain number of electricity allocated to these people? I mean, there's a difference in saying, oh, these people are going to get 20 hours of electricity, Do we have an increased generation to provide these people with 20 hours of electricity? And what part of the country would suffer the loss of this for these people to get this feeder 20 hours of electricity? Now, this tariff hike vis-a-vis the epileptic power supply and some people not even seeing electricity, put this to us. Let's understand it better.
It's the chicken and the egg situation. Do you want to get power 24 hours to all Nigerians and then move them to start paying cost-reflective tariff? Or do you want people to start paying for service they have received, and then that becomes an incentive or a driver for us to improve service to other areas? I think we have taken the second route to treating this. So we are saying those who are currently getting the service, like you said, for someone to be getting 20 hours, because we do not have enough electrons on the grid to go around to everybody, for someone to be getting 20 hours, there's somebody that is getting probably 10 hours and is on a different band. And so we are saying those people who we are currently able to serve, and the decision to serve people is based on a number of factors. There's what we call the willingness and ability to pay for electricity. We have a lot of places where they are unwilling to pay for electricity. They actually think that electricity is it's a social service, which it's not. For such areas, you can't tell me to go give them band A 20 hours or 24 hours supply. So there is I'll call it a pattern to the whole arrangement, where we're able to identify areas people are willing and able to pay. You give them power, but what that does for you is that you give them power, you're able to collect your revenue, and then make the investments in those areas where people are more reluctant to pay. Because when people get reluctant to pay, all you need to do is to make investments to remove the ability to steal. Once you're able to do that, then you can now start changing people's behavior, getting them to conform and understand that electricity is not a social service. And once that happens, you start increasing their availability. And gradually, as we do that, we get the system more liquid, and we're able to bring in more investment, more generation, and before you know it, everybody gets power.
We look forward to that, and no doubt we understand that the attitude of Nigerians when it comes to paying for services is quite alarming. People believe that, like you said, it's a social service, and why shouldn't I get it for free? And you find people who deliberately bypass because they want to access the electricity without paying. But has there been a significant increase in revenue generation since this band started? Band A, band B, increased tariffs here and there. Has there been a certain level of difference when it comes to revenue generation for the AEDC? I know that's where you would probably speak on a lot more.
So, will I attribute the increase in revenue to banding alone? The answer is no, because the fact is that with the increase in tariff, what you notice is that people get more motivated to want to steal energy. So, but from our end, there has been an increase in efficiency. We've started understanding the system more, doing more data analytics, understanding what the issues are, providing more customer service, attending to customers' issues more. And I think that has actually driven the increase in revenue. So to answer you, has there been an increase in revenue? Yes. We are starting to meet our market responsibility better.
Okay.
But like I said, it's driven by a whole lot of other things. Our revamped customer service structure, improved metering system. So there's a whole lot behind it beyond just a tariff increase that has led to the improvement in performance.
All right, now let's talk about metering. This is a question people tend to ask. The cost of meter. Why do we have that all of a sudden? People are lamenting. This is one of the questions that came in the phone-in segment. Why would I buy a meter at the cost at which it is? And sometimes even the tussle and hassle of trying to get another one if one gets bad is a lot. So how adequate has metering been so far for Nigerians? Let's start from the FCT. And why is it that expensive at this point in time?
So the power sector is not devoid of the economic realities. So with the increase we are seeing in FX and everything, is impacted almost every aspect of the industry. Meters and meter components are imported. Yes, we have meter manufacturers in Nigeria, but they import these components, and the recent increment in exchange rates actually reflects in the cost of meters. So and that's why, in its wisdom, the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission initiated the bidding system for meter asset providers. We call them MAPs. That means that every meter provider gives you a quote for what he's going to sell his meter. So it brings about competition, and that competition has actually led to a moderation in the price. So you can see that over the past couple of months, prices have not escalated. If that wasn't the case, by now you would see everybody pushing. But now, because there is competition in the pricing of meters, meter prices have been moderated. And I think going forward, as economic indices start continue to improve, you will see those prices come down. And yes, that's for cost of metering. Then talking about the hassle of getting a meter, I think by the day we are making that process more seamless and easy. The process for applying a meter now is online. So you could just go online, apply for a meter, and by next standard, in 10 days, you should get your meter. But give or take, we do about 14 days maximum. There are some slippages, and I think this is an avenue to actually educate customers. I have found out personally that one of the reasons why customers pay for meters and they don't get it is because they properly do not capture their details when they are making those payments. So you make a payment, you're paying into a bank account the price of your meter. Now, on your narration, you're supposed to properly capture, this is my account number. Every ADC customer has a unique identifier, which we call SPN, or your account number. And you're supposed to properly capture that. But you see, most times customers make payments, say they've paid, but they did not reflect their SPN. So we really cannot then identify which exact customer made this payment. So that's been one of the major reasons I have seen most customers who have complained that I have made payments for meters and it has stayed over the stipulated regulated time and I haven't gotten it. It's mainly down to the fact of improper documentation.
All right, now let's talk about owning of properties. This particular question was being asked by a caller. He said they've experienced cases where, what are the rules on transformers and even metering? People say, oh, I buy my meter, and then they say it belongs to the electricity company at the end of the day, but I paid for it. And for providing transformers, providing fixing and replacement of transformers, I would give from personal experience. In my community where I stay here in the FCT, we fix the transformer if something goes wrong. We pay for the transformer. What are the rules regarding that? Is it not meant to be the electricity providers to make this available for the community members or the people?
So in the case of meters, customers do pay for meters, but we always refund. So there is a refund policy that when you pay for a meter, we refund you back the cost of the meter over a period of time using energy token. So every time you go and buy energy token, you would notice that if you are a customer who paid for your meter under the MAP scheme, you get an extra. So that at the end of the period, 10 years, your full cost of meter is refunded to you.
10 years?
I think that's the stipulated time. But the thing is that it is not free. It's an advance which the customer gives to the disco to acquire the meter, just to make drive the penetration of metering, because we believe that no customer should consume energy without a meter. So it's also a very capital intensive project. So the customer financing model, which is what it is, MAP is a customer financing model where the customer finances it and then we refund to the customer. So that's it for meters and payment for meters. For transformers, clearly the regulations is very clear. The DISCO is responsible for procuring, fixing and installing transformers for customers. It's been topical, honestly. I will not come here and try to paint words. I know that a number of complaints have come where customers tell me personally that our transformer went bad. We called, nobody responded, so we had to go fix it ourselves.
Yes.
It's an issue we are strongly addressing. We are tackling head on. I know a number of customers who are listening to me will testify to the fact that they've engaged me, and I have taken up most of those cases and tried to fix them. But it's also a challenge for the DISCO also because it's a liquidity issue. The DISCO needs money to fix assets. So sometimes when customers come to me to tell me our transformer is bad, I ask them, how much are you owing me? So a transformer is owing me in excess of 10 million naira, and I just need about 3 million naira to fix your transformer. And I can't raise 3 million naira to fix your transformer. But you're owing me 10 million naira. So customers must understand that the DISCOs are going through a liquidity challenge. And that's why sometimes they seem to want to cut corners. But it's no justification. But there has to be collaboration. We need to understand that if service is properly paid for, the service provider now has the responsibility and the ability to actually provide that service. So I am completely taking responsibility for fixing and providing transformers, but customers must support us by making sure that they pay as at when due, and also they stay away from compromising our infrastructures through theft and vandalism.
True that, because we've had cases. There was a report we had here at a point, a community saying that they've not had electricity for a year. I think somewhere in Zamfara, they've not had electricity for a year because they came and carried their transformer to fix and they've not seen it since then.
I don't cover Zamfara.
I know, but I'm just referring to that as well here in the FC team. Another question that we had from our phone-in segment, we're running out of time, so let me just pick those questions because we have listeners who want to have response to such questions. They said, when it comes to the rainy season and this period that is cold, we're seeing lights. When it comes to March, that we all know Abuja is very hot, electricity is a problem. Why?
So it's actually a challenge that we at AADC we are taking up, and I want to use this opportunity to say that probably the next coming dry season we may also face some issues with power, but it would be the last time it would happen because we are now planning for it. What normally happens is during the rainy seasons, Nigeria has a mix of power generations solutions. We have the hydro and we have the thermal. Those are our main power generation sources. Now, during the dry seasons, the hydro power goes down. So we are dependent mainly on the thermal. And that mix and balance becomes a challenge because your hydro generation gives you base load. So when the hydro starts going down, you start having instability on the grid. But what we are doing now in AEDC is that we are trying to roll out what we call embedded generation, which is generation sources that are not tied to the grid, using solar generation. And there is a gestation period for these projects to happen. We have a pocket of proof of concept which we've done. Wuse Market is there, we're about to commission. We have a mini grid somewhere in Nasarawa which we've test run. So we have this proof of concept and we want to roll it out in large scale so that our dependence on the grid, especially during the dry season, because the funny thing is during the dry season you have more sun, so you can use solar power. So we want to move our customers to that solution. So I will tell customers, bear with us. Hopefully 2025 will be the last year we're going to have these issues with power cuts during the dry season.
All right. Well, unfortunately, they've been saying that our time is up, and well spent time, I would say. But in conclusion, I would say that Nigerians expect a lot from electricity when it comes to electricity distribution and supply, being that the world have moved forward and people are boasting of 2-3 years without. I stayed in Cotonou, and I can't remember, not in Cotonou, in a village in Zafe, and that's in Zafe, And I remember I was there for 2 months and they didn't take the power for even a second. But my children now know what NEPA means, as in it's quite alarming. But Nigerians expect a lot from electricity companies, and they expect a lot actually. So in your closing remarks, what would you tell Nigerians, when it comes to electricity distribution and supply, seeing how we've had grid collapse, blackouts here and there, lots of drama in the electricity sector? What would you tell Nigerians in conclusion?
We've had our time to evolve. We're going through our process of evolution, and I think with the current structure, with the current system that is coming to play in the power sector, I think we can only get it right this time. The signs are good, I must be honest. I did a tendering for embedded generation, which I'm just closing, and it was fully bidded for. Every feeder we put out there. So I think people are getting more confident in the system. The current increase in tariff, whether you believe it or not, is giving investors more confidence. And investors are now willing to put their money there because they know that they would get return for value. And so value is going to be created. And it can only get better with this current trend.
It can only get better indeed with this current trend. We look forward to the day it's actually going to get better, when Nigerians will beat their chest and know that they are paying value, for what is worth. They are paying, the amount they're paying equates to the number of electricity they're getting. We're looking forward to that day. Thank you so much for joining us, Engineer Chijioke Okwuolenye. Yes, thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure.
It's good to have you. Well, if you're just joining us, unfortunately, we've come to the end of this segment. This is a discussion segment, and we're having a discussion with Engineer Chijioke Okwuolenye, who is the acting Managing Director and CEO of the Abuja Electricity Distribution Company, AEDC. Well, I hope that we've been able to answer a few of your questions that you put in. Like I said, I wrote them down. We hope we've been able to give, a reasonable answer, and we hope we've been able to keep you informed.